Hey there, my name is Joey Virgilio, realtor at Sage Real Estate and co-host of the Toronto Living's Real Estate Podcast. Today we're talking all about heating systems. So if you've ever thought to yourself, does a furnace work better than a boiler system? Which is cheaper? These are good questions. And if you stick around, I'm going to break it down for you. Okay, so the very first thing I'm going to mention is that there's four main systems that can be used to distribute heat throughout a house. Number one is a furnace, which is the most commonly used. Number two is a boiler system. Three is electric baseboard heating. And then four would be a heat pump system. So let's break it down one by one and see if we can kind of clear the picture up a little bit. Okay, so the very first one we're going to talk about are furnaces. What is a furnace? A furnace basically takes a fuel, it burns it to heat the air, and then there's a big fan that blows that hot air throughout the house via ducts. Not ducks, not ducks. Air throughout the house via ducts. Via ducts. 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 You getting that? Ducts. Oh my God. Okay, so that's what a furnace does. And the reason it's so popular is because number one, they're fairly easy to install, and installing a furnace is less money than it would be to install a boiler system, and it would be less money than installing a heat pump system. So there you have it. If you're looking for the downside of a furnace, then I'd probably say maintenance. Not only should you get it checked out once a year by a professional, but you're also gonna have to change those filters once every month or once every quarter or whatever the case is. Those are expenses that you're gonna take on. Okay, so next we're gonna talk about boiler systems. What's a boiler system? A boiler system is a system that burns fuel to heat up water instead of air, and that hot water travels through pipes and radiators that are located throughout the house, which heats up the house. What are some of the benefits of a boiler system? Number one, they last longer than a furnace would. So a furnace lasts 10 to 15 years, whereas a boiler system could last 25 years plus. So you get an extra decade on those. Second would be they don't blow air. So you don't have to worry about dust blowing around or just air quality in general throughout your house. And I'll also mention that they're quieter. Much quieter than furnaces anyways. Furnaces have a big fan that runs, so every time that they're booted on, you're gonna have a lot of white noise that runs. Boiler systems don't have that. So if you're sensitive to noise, I'd say that's something to keep in mind. Now, something to consider is that if you're purchasing a house that already has a boiler system and radiators in it, then you may not have ducts, and that could be a big expense to tack on if you want that central AC down the line. The next system I'm gonna talk about is electric baseboard heating, and it's basically exactly how it sounds. It's a enclosed box that runs along your baseboard, heats up via electricity. There's no fans, and just lets the heat rise and heats up kind of on a room per room basis. So the benefits are it's the cheapest version to install. It usually costs, let's say a couple $100 a heater. There's no dust pollution. It's not blowing air anywhere. You can also heat your house like zone heating. So if you're not using certain rooms, you don't need to turn those on necessarily. You can leave those off, and you can heat only specific spots of your house. Now, that being said, the cons are, number one, they're kind of expensive to run. They're running off of hydro, and also it takes longer to heat up a room when you kick that on in the first place. So your bills are gonna run higher. Secondly, because you're heating up metal against the wall, you have to be really cautious of things like hanging curtains or little kids running around. They do pose a hazard in certain senses, so be cautious of that. You don't want to push your couch right over one of them. And the last system, which is the fourth system, is what's known as a heat pump. And without getting too technical, a heat pump basically takes heat from another source, so outside or underground, then it amplifies it, and then it distributes that heat to where it's needed. So the cool thing about a heat pump, and the one big benefit from the heat pump, is the fact that it actually is a 2-in-1 system. So if you have a furnace and AC, you actually don't need either of those anymore. You can actually just run off of the one heat pump system. Also, it's one of the most environmentally friendly systems because it doesn't actually burn any fuel. Also, to add to that, because they're not burning any fuel, you don't have to worry about things like carbon monoxide leaks, which is another added bonus. And the downside of these are the fact that they're more expensive. There are 2 units combined into one, so it's for good reason, but it is something to consider. Now, if you have a gas furnace that you're already using and you're thinking about making the switch, you could actually be eligible for a rebate. So something to consider. Secondly, considering we live in Toronto in these like harsh climates, heat pumps actually work better in warmer climates. When a temperature hits a certain degree outside, heat pumps just need to work harder to get the job done. So something to consider. You can actually run a dual system, keep your furnace and add a heat pump to it, but yeah, just something to keep in mind. So there you have it. You have your furnace, your boiler system, electric baseboard heating, and your heat pumps. If you're looking for any more clarity, please feel free to contact me using the links below. If you feel like you wanted to add to the conversation, please feel free to comment. And if you haven't already, please hit the like and subscribe button. Otherwise, we'll see you next time.